Where you at? Good morning. Austin Peterson here. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. It's time to rise and freedom. So, how are you feeling today? What? Boo. What? So I can't be 5 minutes late every once in a while. Have you ever been 5 minutes late to your job? God, the only problem is when you're 5 minutes late to my job, everybody knows about it. Well, I'm glad to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, good. In a little better mood. You know what it is? I blame it on forgetting my coffee at home. So I had to go down the street or actually have somebody else go down the street and get something for me. Shut up. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We've only got 2 more shows, including this one, before I go on vacation, and I'm never coming back. Just kidding. Just kidding. Leaving on a jet plane. I thought I was leaving Saturday, but he told me this morning I was wrong. So we're leaving Sunday. But next week, my brother Justin Peterson will be taking over the Wake Up America show, so you will get to see us in all of our glory. It will just be a better version of me, a taller, more handsome version of me, the one that got all the good genes. Justin Peterson will be hosting the show, and I hope you'll give him plenty of love and attention. Good morning to all of our friends here today. We're glad to have you. American IQs are dropping. Are we growing more dumber? It's a good question if you think about it there. American IQ scores have dropped in 4 of 5 measurements. We'll talk about that at the top of the show today and ask ourselves is our children learning? And then at 7:20 this morning, I want to ask the question, should we ban TikTok? More and more calls are growing to ban the app here in the United States, not just for government officials, but for absolutely everyone. We'll talk about that, as well as another story that I have from a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement that was given to scholars to ask them which ethnicities they believe should live or die. What? It just can't get any dumber. Well, it can get dumber, apparently, because American IQs are dropping. At 7:30 this morning, I know you're going to be excited to see my friend Larry Sharp is going to be joining us on the show. All the way from the state of New York. New York. He'll be joining us to talk about a couple of stories. One is that digital payments are starting to move the United States, or have been moving us, towards a cashless economy. Panera Bread announced they now have a completely frictionless palm payment style system. Where have I heard of something like this before? A payment system where you can buy something using something in the palm of your hand. It's downright biblical. We'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about a story from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has moved to ban central bank digital currencies in the state of Florida. That we're going to call them CBDCs. So central bank digital currencies in the state of Florida might get banned under a new plan by the front runner in the presidential race, who's not even running, Ron DeSantis. I only like to say the front runner just because I know it drives Trump supporters insane.
God!
And it's like, calm down.
Please,
I don't really have a pick in this race just
no,
yet. I'm still waiting to see if Kristi Noem's going to get in and stuff like that. But I mean, Trump supporters have been so frigging annoying online lately about Ron DeSantis and stuff that I think that they deserve a little bit of digging back, don't you? They're just a little bit too sensitive. Have you noticed, to any criticism? It's just like, okay, so Ron DeSantis says, I don't know what goes into paying hush fund monies to a porn star that you had an affair with, and they're just like, you guys need to lighten up, okay? Just calm down. You're supposed to be the funny ones, right? Donald Trump, he's supposed to be funny. All right, live a little, have a little laugh. At 7:51 this morning, I've got a video that's going to blow your mind. An Amazon driver delivered a package during a police standoff with a gunman. Yeah, right in the middle of the police standoff with a gunman, the Amazon delivery driver is like, "Yep, here you go." It's like, wow, we probably don't treat our Amazon drivers with enough respect, but I've started giving them little snacks and things like that to take with them. But I'm trying to be a little bit more generous with those kinds of people, because a lot of times they just kind of go unnoticed. It's like, oh, it's the package delivery guy. Oh yeah, he shows up at the house and brings me all my awesome stuff from Amazon. Maybe we need to start giving them a little bit more respect. I'll play that video for you at 7:51. And then this one weird trick to make you a better parent. Camellia Peterson will join us because guess what? I'm not a daddy, at least not that I know of. We'll talk to Camellia Peterson at 8 o'clock. My lovely Steffi this morning says, Are you having a laugh? You having a laugh? You having a laugh? God, I don't know. Nobody's gonna get that reference, but there's a really great show on HBO. It was like 3 or 4 seasons. I can't remember, but Ricky Gervais did this comedy show called Extras. If you've never seen it, it was hilarious. And the only problem was that it got terrible when he was no longer an extra. When he started when he got his own sitcom and started getting famous, and you're like, no, the show's called Extras. You're supposed to be an extra, and your life sucks and is miserable, and that's funny. But anyways, you having a laugh? You having a laugh? Thank you, Steffi, for that callback on there. Can we all just be a little stitious, says Barney Styles? Sure, we can. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. So, yeah, Rare Camellia will be joining us at 8 o'clock. It's a very rare Camellia sighting to talk about the key to good parenting. One weird trick to good parenting. We'll talk about that. And then at 8:23, I'm super excited. I get to pat myself on the back because our Caucasians jersey from the AP for Liberty shop. No, not this picture that I'm pulling up right now. I'm going to find it. Hold on. Hold on. Studio mode off. Turn off that one, turn this one on, the Caucasians ad. Can I get a little round of applause for breaking the internet? Yes, my Caucasians jersey was mentioned yesterday in the not satire site, but it's connected to the satire site. Everybody knows the Babylon Bee, right? Of course, Babylon Bee, one of the best sites out there. Well, they have a sister site called Not the Bee, and Not the Bee writes about stories that seem like they would be satire, but they're actually true. So, as of yesterday, we sold like 6 or 7 of these shirts, Caucasian shirts. Somebody bought one this morning from Australia and had it sent down under. Oh, crikey. I don't know who got it, but pretty exciting to see that. And I love it whenever some meme that I make goes viral, and then it just so happens to coincide with my AP for Liberty Shop business. So I'm just super excited about it. Everybody's like, "Oh, Austin, you're so happy," and I see the sales roll in, and I'm just like, no, where's my sound effect? Okay, there it is. Okay, anyways, so stop patting yourself on the back. We'll do that more, Austin. I will have a nice, loving segment talking about me later on in the show, and it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll goof off about it. Very funny stuff. At 8:30 this morning, a Georgian politician who's making waves for liberty. An old friend of mine contacted me the other day. He was somebody who worked with me on my presidential campaign back in 2016. He says, Austin, I am now the advisor to the president of the country of Georgia. Like, okay, well, that's definitely a big upgrade. And he says, Austin, our libertarians, we have elected libertarians in our parliament here. They managed to legalize cannabis through civil action. I was like, oh my God, a libertarian political party in the country of Georgia called Gurchi, founded in 2015. So it's the Georgian word for pine cone, which is a symbol of new energy in several ancient civilizations. So it's the first openly libertarian political party in the post Soviet world. And it's also the first party in Georgia built around a concrete ideology. Other parties there are built around personalities, and they have no platform or ideology or philosophy, not even as a formality. So they've been linked to the fight against military conscription in their country and the legalization of cannabis. They even created the Church of Biblical Freedom to use the religious exemption loophole and help young men avoid military conscription, which the party condemns as slavery. Amen. Can we give it to the Gurchi Party of Georgia? Well, there's a young man named Herman Jabo who holds one of the seats in the Parliament of Georgia. Apparently, and this is kind of funny, but apparently he's a fan of me and the show. And they reached out and they're like, "Hey, we want to be on the Wake Up America show. Like, we've got fans in Georgia." No, not that Georgia, not Georgia, Georgia. That's a different Georgia. We're talking about the country of Georgia. Okay, I know American IQs are dropping, and we're going to talk about that next. But I'm talking about Georgia. I'm just kidding. You're never supposed to talk down to your audience. I love you, baby kiss. So we'll have on Herman Jabo today at 8:30 Central Time, and yeah, you get to meet him. He was one of the original founders of the Church of Biblical Freedom, which honestly sounds pretty awesome. So we'll talk about that this morning with our friend Herman, who'll be joining us at 8:30. It's going to be great. Good morning to Sarah Palacios, Quest Fanning, my lovely wife Stephanie, and Chris Morrill, as well as Elizabeth Press, who I see over in the live stream today. Nice to see you. So freaking happy for y'all, says Sarah Palacios. I know, we're so excited. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to want to go to Japan. I'm super excited about it. Oh, wow. I just got a Facebook friend request from a friend of mine who died like 6 years ago. I wonder if that's legit. Um, are we growing more dumber? American IQ scores dropped in 4 of 5 measurements. Oh, boy. Don't laugh. It's not funny. IQ scores had been increasing from 1932 through the 20th century all over the world, with differences that were ranging from roughly 3 to 5 IQ points per decade. Now, this phenomenon is known as the Flynn effect. But now, however, a new study out of Northwestern University suggests a reverse Flynn effect of sorts may be taking place in the United States. Yikes. USA, USA. The reverse Flynn effect was present across a large U.S. sample covering between 2016 and 2018 in every category except one. Now, there were consistent negative slopes among 3 out of 4 cognitive domains. Not anybody who watches the Wake Up America show, obviously, because, well, this is big brain time when you're watching us, right? Because I know some of you were
How
like,
dare you?
no, I'm not talking about anybody who watches the show. Duh, because you guys are obviously you guys are the Flynn effect in progress, right? You're not the reverse Flynn effect. Anyway, so ability scores pertaining to verbal reasoning, logic, and vocabulary, things like that. Matrix reasoning, those are visual problem solving intelligences, and things like analogies, being able to understand an analogy, as well as letter and number series. So that would be your computational or mathematical intelligence. All of these ability scores dropped over the course of this study period. But one area that they didn't was scores of 3D rotation. So spatial reasoning amongst Americans has actually increased from 2011 to 2018. I wonder if that has anything to do with like the metaverse or with the technology that we have today that's helping people to have better spatial awareness. Maybe video games or things like that are helping people with spatial awareness. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, yeah, right. Composite ability scores, these are single scores that are derived from multiple pieces of information, were also lower across the more recent samples. Now, these score differences persisted regardless of age, education, or gender. Is our children learning? Now, despite the observed decline in IQ scores, the author of this study, her name is Elizabeth Dvorak, posits that people shouldn't read these findings and think that Americans are getting less intelligent. She says it doesn't mean that their mental ability is lower or higher. It's just a difference in scores that are favoring older or newer samples. Maybe I'm too stupid to understand that. She says that it could be just that they're getting worse at taking tests, or specifically worse at taking these kinds of tests. So the study authors used what's called the synthetic aperture personality assessment. I know I'm giving you the big stuff early on in the show. I know that we're supposed to do the big brain stuff a little bit later, but it's a personality test and it gives test takers feedback and it focuses on 27 temperament traits. There's a lot of big words and a lot of syllables here. I just don't want to put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. In addition to ability scores, so adaptability is being measured, impulsivity, anxiety, humor, things like that are being measured as well. So now they did this survey based on 394,000 Americans, and that's a big sample study from 2006, the year 2006 to 2018, and they wanted to try and examine if cognitive ability scores had changed over the 13 years. And then they also recruited a smaller cohort of individuals, but not that much smaller. 300,000 were also recruited between 2011 and 2018. Now, the 3D rotation data, which is what we actually increased in, that only exists for subjects who took the later study. Now, the project did not attempt to determine the reason for the decline in IQ scores, but I'm sure some of you probably have some opinions about that. Honestly, I would be curious to see what you think. Send us a text 573-319-1586. That's 573 319-1586. You can send us your thoughts. Why do you think that American IQs are dropping? Again, send us a text and I will read it on air at that number if you'd like. You can also send us in any kind of stories that you think are going on today that we might have missed that you think that we should be covering on the Wake Up America show. We're super grateful to all of our audience listeners for their participation. It's been a fantastic several months since we started this show in September and until last September until today. And it's been an absolute delight being your host. I am going to miss you guys honestly when I'm gone during the break because I really enjoy the audience. Nice to see our friends over on Twitch as well this morning. I see To the Flag is joining us today. It's nice to see you over there. We like to see people joining us on all of our different platforms. We're also streaming over on Rumble. Let's give it up for our Rumble fans today. Rumblers have really been growing in numbers. It's been nice to see over there. 14 people watching us this morning, nice, bright, and early, as well as over on YouTube. That's the Cantina crew, and they get an applause. So we appreciate them very much. The Cantina crew is our bread and butter. 36 people watching over on with the Cantina crew over on YouTube. Nice to see you all here today. Let's switch that to all messages so that we can all do it. John Rail says, hit that like button, everyone. Absolutely. If you're watching us now live over on Rumble or on YouTube or any platform where you can get a like button, hit that like button. We will be super grateful to you for doing that. All right, moving on to the next topic, banning TikTok. So yesterday I had a conversation with my friend Jennifer Bukowski, and we were discussing about the national security question related to banning TikTok. And I hadn't really thought about it too deeply. Usually my knee-jerk reaction whenever somebody says ban something, and I'm like, ban yourself. But after thinking about it seriously and deeply, I'm going to come down on the side of ban TikTok on all government devices and any government contractors, because I think it is Chinese spyware, but don't ban it for private citizens. This is where I would think, because here's why I think this. Because I think that giving the government the power to ban TikTok today will mean that they can ban Truth Social, Gab, or Rumble tomorrow, right? Any law that is passed to give the government more power eventually is going to be turned against us. You remember when conservatives were all excited about the Patriot Act? Rah, 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 we're going to go fight the terrorists. It's only going to be used against terrorists. And then we found out that the government used the Patriot Act to spy on Donald Trump. Remember how that was, how that changed, how quickly that changed. And here's what I believe. I believe that the government, the larger the government is, and the more government bureaucracies that we have, the more it's going to be used against conservatives and libertarians, because the government and the institutions and the bureaucracies are all going to favor Democrats and leftists and communists and Marxists and socialists because they know that the communists, the Marxists, the socialists, the leftists, the Democrats, the LGBTQIAs, all of the people under the umbrella that believe in big government, they are the party of government. They are the believers of big government, and they know that they're going to be supported by government. The fact is that it's going to always be used. No matter what power you give the government, eventually it's going to be turned against conservatives and libertarians because the government institutions know that conservatives and libertarians are the enemy of government to an extent. A lot of conservatives are for big government, but not as much as Democrats are, for sure. So if we give government the power to ban a social media platform for ostensibly national security reasons, I mean, you could chalk up. Don't you think the Democrats think that Truth Social is a threat to national security? If you're watching us on Rumble today, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that the government that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, yeah, I see 20 of you over there watching us on Rumble today. Good morning. Don't you think that AOC would love to ban Rumble? Don't you think that if Nancy Pelosi had the power to ban Rumble.com, they would do it? Right? So be very careful when you say, "Oh, well, it's going to be used against our enemies." The Patriot Act was supposed to be used against our enemies, right? Then they passed that law, and then what happened? It immediately was turned around and used to strike against the civil liberties of Americans. Now I know what you're going to say because speaking of low IQ, I'm reading some of my Instagram comments, but Instagram comments related to the ban of TikTok here, and they're saying things like, "Here's speaking of low IQ." They say, what was it? Somebody says the government should ban toxic. This is where libertarians lose me. Government should have the power. Here it is. This is where libertarians lose me. Government has the right to ban toxic things. Jesus. I mean, like some IQs, I know IQs are going down, but I mean, that IQ is in the sewer, right? Government has the right to ban toxic things. Well, then the government has the right to ban you. The government has the right to ban what every single platform, Facebook's, Twitter. The government has the right to ban Elon Musk, right, for being toxic on the internet. Donald Trump is toxic as hell, right? Should the government be able to ban him? I mean, he's what you got to understand how stupid it is. The people, the people who want to enforce their ideas through government are always the people whose ideas are the stupidest. I am paraphrasing H.L. Mencken. H.L. Mencken, type of person, government, stupid. Ideas are stupid. The kind of man who wants the government to adopt and enforce his ideas is always the kind of man whose ideas are idiotic. Let's give it up to H.L. Mencken. I have to say. Mad Mamanon says, if we can't get a free Julian Assange, the First Amendment is dead anyways. But yeah, F the banhammer, rules, not rulers. Oh. Y'all thought Facebook and Twitter were private companies too, says Elizabeth Press. Not sure what she's trying to say there. The First Amendment only applies to cat videos, asked Barney Styles. Good point there. Yes, very good. Off-White Deity over in the Instagram said, nah, actual foreign malware is worth banning. So here's the thing. I said mal because it's French, not malware. I guess malware itself is an English word, but mal is French, right? When you're feeling bad, it's mal. C'est mal. So here's the thing. Your cell phone is foreign spyware. Okay, should we ban cell phones? This is a serious question. Your phones are made in China, right? Especially if you're on an iPhone, it's made in a factory in China. Do you think that there's spy technology in your phone? I'm waiting. Yes, there is. There's spy technology in your phone. They don't need it. The Chinese don't need an app to spy on you. They have do you have a phone, a smartphone? Does it have a camera on it? Okay. Well, then you can be spied on by the Chinese. They don't need TikTok to spy on you. Okay. So logically, if you were to extrapolate that, you would say, okay, well, then what's next? Well, could we ban cell phones, for example? See, that's the problem, is it's the slippery slope. Why is it that conservatives who want to ban TikTok will all believe in the slippery slope logic when it comes to LGBTQ issues, but they don't believe in the slippery slope logic when it comes to national security issues, right? And that's why we get screwed over, because if you think about it, the Patriot Act is a perfect example where the government was supposed to go after foreigners, but they ended up turning it against American citizens, right? For national security reasons. So ban it on government devices, ban it on government contractor devices. But private citizens, we need to educate ourselves, right? That's about us. All right, I'm going to go get Larry Sharp to talk about a foreign currency. But we'll talk about that and when we get back on the not foreign currency, central bank digital currencies. Should we allow the central banks to have their own digital currencies? I say no. We'll see what Larry Sharp says when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth.
with
You
a
can
crappy
find
knife.
it on
Thankfully,
Amazon
from the
Kindle
ancient
or
sect
get your
of
hands
Christian
on a
knights who
paperback
also
at
love cutting and stabbing comes a new
apforlibertyshop.com.
implement
Look
that has
on
received
down and get
my
yourself a
personal
copy of the
blessing,
book
the
that's making
Templar
waves
knife.
all
Like
around
the ancient sword
town.
of
You won't
Excalibur,
regret
you
it,
don't
so get
choose
ready
the
to be
Templar knife,
floored
it
because
chooses
Calvin
you.
Coolidge,
You
well,
just decide
folks,
what
he
kind you
really
want on the website
scored.
first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender. Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder. For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers,
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today on a Thursday? Good, good. Nice to see you here on the program. Hopefully it's a little bit warmer wherever you are in the country. It's certainly started to warm up here. Wearing shorts today makes me feel kind of nice. Of course, you can't see whether I'm wearing any pants at all, so it doesn't really matter to you. I don't know. All right, moving on here. A cashless society, Panera Bread has debuted what they're calling a frictionless palm payment system. This is Amazon's new palm reading technology that was introduced at a bunch of Whole Foods locations in California, enabling customers to pay for their groceries by just scanning their palms at checkout terminals rather than using cash or cards. Now Panera Bread is starting to experiment with Amazon's cashless payment system as the war on cash marches on. Joining me now to discuss is my good friend, a very famous libertarian, a freedom fighter himself in his own right, Larry Sharp from the good state of New York. How are you doing today, Larry?
I'm not sure it's a good state, but but I'm doing fine. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, it's well represented by people like yourself, Larry. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course, of course.
And what do you have in behind you? Are you in the New York legislature or what is that?
That is a wonderful green screen.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a nice green screen.
Yes, that's a wonderful green screen.
Yeah, good. Well, Larry, we hope one day to see you in a position of government like that, and you'll be sitting there for real. So you heard me in this intro talking about, the move to a cashless society. I mean,
Yes.
it is, I'm from the Midwest. It's very Christian out here. Ever since I was a little boy, Larry, we've heard stories about the mark of the beast, and that when you want to go and pay for something at a grocery store, that they will put the mark on your head or on your hand. And in order to be able to buy something, you'll have to, put your hand or your head over there. Is this the end times, Larry? Is Jesus coming back?
This is the end of work as we know it, is what it actually is. It is definitely businesses trying to make the turn faster, right? They want the turn faster. The more I can walk in and put my hand up or look around, the less bodies I have to have in my store, the faster I can get people in and out of my store, the faster I can collect my cash, all those things. But not just that, the harder it is for someone to physically rob me, which also means security is better. So the cashless society, the business community wants it as fast as possible, but not for the security reasons, really, more for the speed and the ability to save money. So that's really the issue. They want it to happen as fast as they possibly can. Absolutely.
Well, that you make it sound not so bad. Quest Fanning.
No, it's terrible. They still want it though.
Oh yeah. Well, Quest Fanning says he's a big fan because you're a solutions man. Thank you very much, Quest, for the super chat. We appreciate you. Everybody's saying hello, Larry. Good morning, Larry. Everybody's glad to have you here. So, Larry, you say it's terrible. Why is it terrible?
Because what winds up happening is all of a sudden now we can't have cash, right? And the glory of cash is freedom, right? Without cash, we wind up losing the barter system that goes away. And now someone can control this, right? So now if I'm using my Apple Pay, whatever the case may be, the second that I get angry at Apple, Apple gets angry at me. Now I lose my ability to purchase what I'm going to purchase, to travel, to do what I want to do. This is what's scary about this. Well, it's what we always do. We sacrifice freedom for convenience. We sacrifice privacy for convenience. And I understand it. I do. It doesn't mean we should do it, right? Just because it feels good doesn't mean we should do it. But I do understand why we're doing it.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I really enjoy digital checkouts and payments. I mean, now whenever I buy things on the internet, I have my credit card, and I have that way. It's everything is secure because I have one area that I can, track all my purchase and things like that. I mean, I got to admit, I never use cash, but I mean, I guess I am losing some freedom to a certain extent. I mean, cash is sort of king when it comes to freedom, isn't it, Larry?
It's why the black market's full of cash, right? Everyone, you will always find people telling you, this is the lie they'll tell you. We can't allow you to have other types of currency. You can't have cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or whatever the case may be, because that's what the criminals do. They'll go buy guns or something or whatever the criminals do. Without question, the what is used in the black market is cash. The US dollar is used for all of that stuff, right? Because that's the freedom. The black market shows you what freedom is about. Well, I'm not saying you should be buying bad things and hurting people. I'm not saying that. But you have a right to buy what you want to buy. Well, in theory, you're supposed to have a right to buy what you want to buy. And cash is king when it comes to that. Absolutely.
You sound like you kind of like the black market, Larry.
I didn't say that. All I'm saying is there is a freedom to it, is what I will say.
For sure. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I am joined this morning by the good Larry Sharp from the state of New York. Let's give him another round of applause. Got a lot of big Larry Sharp fans in here today, which we're glad to see. Now, Larry, the next question here, as we're moving to a digital payment society, is the question of what are called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And the latest headline that I'm reading. Yeah. So essentially, the reason I brought this up is I read this headline that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has introduced state legislation banning CBDCs. What is your take on CBDCs, and do you agree with this move by the governor of the state of Florida?
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a nuanced view on this. Am I glad that he's doing it? Yes, I am. However, it is useless. I'm happy he's doing it. However, it is just a virtual signal, right? But it's an important one because people need to understand how dangerous and how scary central bank digital currencies are. However, the Constitution is clear. If the Congress wants to make it, Congress can. Congress can value coinage. Congress can value money. Congress can do it. This is a legal thing, and a state can't stop U.S. currency from being used in a state. So it may go to court. He's going to lose. There's no chance this will actually work. And we are going to CBDCs because it is a way for governments to erase debt. It's a way for governments to control what you purchase, and they'll use it in a way that will sound great. They'll say, "Look, Austin, you got to like my digital currency because now, when it comes to things like welfare or food stamps, I'll be able to control the people buying good food for their children. Don't you care about children, Austin?" They'll say that type of thing. But what will actually happen is, it will go to the contracts of the cronies. It'll go to like whatever Wegmans or whatever is the small guy will lose. The small mom and pop deli, the small mom and pop store will not be able to get the digital currency. But the big companies that sign contracts and agreements with government will be able to. But not just that. Once this happens, they will say things like, "Well, it'll help the black market. We'll stop criminals from buying guns," or whatever lie they'll tell us. They'll say that you can't buy drugs or whatever. It's all not true. What will actually happen is cancel culture on steroids. Because once you are a bad person, they will begin to stop you from doing everything. And here it gets even worse. Once they arrest you for whatever they decide, because once they target you, Austin, you're guilty. So once they target you, they'll arrest you. And now they already will seize all of your social media. The second that you are arrested and you're going to a trial, they'll seize all of your social media. Now they will seize all of your transactions on your ledger. So they will see exactly what you've bought, who sold you what, and they will use it to craft a message against you, and you will be plea bargaining your way into jail because there's no way you can compete. It is not a good thing at all. I get why he's doing it. I fear, though, that it's unstoppable. What we have to make sure we do is they don't ban other currency. That's what we can do. We can't stop this. Digital currency is happening. We cannot stop it. What we have to actually stop is a ban on other currencies, which the Supreme Court has already said the government can do.
Well, I already kind of had to poop because of the coffee, Larry, but I'm pretty sure it's in my pants now, thanks to all of that you just said right there. Good morning. Rise in freedom. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. If you're just tuning in, I'm Austin Peterson, speaking to my good friend Larry Sharp. Sarah Palacios sent us a super chat today. Thank you, Sarah. She says, 2 of the greatest liberty fighters in the USA. Hell yeah. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate your support today. All right, Larry, that's some pretty scary stuff, but at least you provided
Yes.
kind of the prescription for freedom in a sense there. So, central bank digital currency is inevitable. It's going to happen. I agree with you.
Yep.
That's going to happen. In terms of banning other alternatives, I mean, they can't really ban Bitcoin because of the way that it works in a distributed network, right? But I mean, we don't want them to ban what, like fiat or in a sense?
We
I mean,
don't want them
libertarians
to
kind of hate
ban
fiat, right?
any.
Right.
No, we
Go
don't.
ahead.
We want, if you want to use fiat, you should be able to. If I want to trade in Pokemon cards, I should be able to trade in Pokemon cards if I want to, right? I don't want to ban fiat currency. I don't want to ban any currencies, right? And that's the issue. Once I ban currencies, now there was what happens when all of a sudden they decide that your social security number is wrong or whatever they decide, and now you can't have access to the one currency. You can't even leave the country. You can't leave your home. You have to now beg people for money. This is the wrong answer. Look, digital currency is happening. I get it. But what we have to push as freedom lovers is you may not ban any currency to include fiat or Bitcoin. Now, you asked the question, can they ban Bitcoin because of the way Bitcoin is set up? Actually, physically, no, but legally, yes. Right? They will ban anything. And then once they see you using it and target you, that will be the third charge they put on top of you. That's all it'll be. So they'll look and see that one time Austin bought something with Bitcoin. Oh, we actually wanted to put him in jail for some, zoning rule. Now we can put him in jail for Bitcoin. Yay. So they will just do that.
Damn, Larry, you're scaring the crap out of me this morning. Governor Ron DeSantis
Yes.
of Florida introduced the legislation to ban CBDCs from behind the podium with a phrase "Big Brother's digital dollar" plastered across it. He says what a central bank digital currency is all about is surveilling Americans and
Yep.
controlling Americans, he said. You're opening up a major can of worms and you're handing a central bank huge amounts of power, and they will use that power. They've also been called Orwellian, and Edward Snowden has called them crypto fascist currencies. Would you agree
Mhm.
with them?
Every single thing he just said is correct. Absolutely. And this is why I'm glad he did it, even though I think he is, I think it can't work what the law I think will fail in the long run. However, I got to say, I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad you and I are talking about it. I've been talking about this for a long time, but not enough, obviously. We've got to keep talking about this. We have to be able to accept this is coming, but defend ourselves against it. And hopefully, if we're lucky, and I'm not sure we can, but my other hope is we have to make sure that the government is spied upon by us, if that makes any sense, right? The government's always spying on us. You've got to spy back on the government and stop it from controlling us through this currency.
This kind of is the libertarian battle of the right now and the future, isn't it, Larry?
Absolutely. It's why I talk about it often. You will see me talk about this all the time, right? I've had many people on my show about it. I've had many people I've chatted with. I'm actually trying to create policies in New York State about it. I was trying to create a couple years ago when I was running, I was trying to create the idea of a New York State currency that would be able to compete against the US currency. So that if for some reason they decided to create this digital currency, that at least in New York State, you would have a secondary way of making money and surviving and living in New York State at least. So I was creating it not because I like digital currencies or don't, because I believe that competition is good and having multiple ways of payment systems is going to do nothing but help.
I love that. Boy, Larry, I'm so glad that I brought you on here today to talk about this. I'm sort of just realizing now how important this topic is, and I'm glad that we have your expertise here to discuss it. One last thing, Larry, here before I let you go, because I know your time is very valuable. Um, we're talking today a little bit about the ban of TikTok. And
Mhm.
I came out against the ban of TikTok, knowing that I do believe that it is Chinese spyware, because I'm kind of thinking that it might be a camel's nose under the tent. It's like the Patriot Act. It was supposed to be aimed at foreign governments, but then it gets used against us. How do you feel about this? Do you agree with me that we shouldn't ban it? Maybe ban it for government officials, but not for the public? What are your thoughts?
I think no banning whatsoever. It's unnecessary and useless. And here's the reason why. TikTok is bad for many reasons, none of them being Chinese. TikTok is actually destroying our children. It's destroying what they're doing. It's destroying their attention span. It's bad for many reasons. The reason why they want to ban it is not because they care about China. That isn't the issue. I don't care. First off, I don't care if China has my information. China is not going to put me in jail. The American government is. when the American government decides, China will put their own people in jail. They won't put me in jail, right? I'm not in China. So I'm actually safer from China than I am from my own government. If the government actually gets an American to buy TikTok, now when I get arrested and the government wants my TikTok information, if it's an American company, the government will get it. If it's a Chinese company, China will say no. So I'm actually safer in my own home if China owns TikTok and not America. So I don't really care about that. But the next thing is, it's not like China needs TikTok to spy on me, right? And if just an American buys, so American now owns the company. Here's what will happen. If China wants the information, they'll just buy it. They have money. They will pay money and get the information. They want it anyway. Not a big deal. But I'll go one step further. The reason why they actually want TikTok to be bought is to save Facebook and Instagram, because TikTok is eating their lunch. This is big business in America joining up with government to try to save them and make more money, right? If an American buys TikTok, they will do one of two things. They will destroy it so that now Instagram Reels or YouTube Reels or whatever shorts will become the next thing, or they'll take it and they'll merge it with one of those. All this is going to do is make our big American tech even bigger. We were scared of American Big Brother. Getting rid of TikTok makes it even worse. I said it before and I'll say it again. Competition's good. Let TikTok live. Let it compete. I'm not scared of the Chinese government knowing my information. They already have it, and they can't put me in jail, but the American government can.
Damn, Larry, tell us how you really feel. Larry is the OG libertarian. That is Larry Sharp. Larry, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
No, thank you for having me on. I'm always happy to see you, brother. I watch your show. I love what you're doing. You're killing it. Don't stop.
Thank you very much. You can follow Larry at Larry Sharp on Twitter. Larry, thank you very much for standing up for freedom. We appreciate you, and thanks for your time today.
Have a good one, brother.
Thank you very much. What did you think of Larry Sharp? Send us a text today at 573-319-1586. Larry watches the Wake Up America show? Well, of course he does. It's the best show in the morning, right? Better than Good Morning America, better than any other show, right? Give myself a little pat on the back. All right. Well, I know I'm going to lose some audience members during the commercial break, but quite frankly, the coffee is starting to work on me, and Larry scared me. I got to go to the bathroom. When I get back, let's talk to Camellia Peterson about this one weird trick that it takes to be a great parent. Do you have this quality? We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. We're glad to have you here. All right, well, who's your daddy? I'm not your daddy. I don't think I'm anybody's daddy. I don't think I'm anybody's daddy, but I know somebody who's your mommy. Maybe not your mommy, unless your name is Felicity or Anna Rosa. I don't think she has any other kids that she knows of either. She's Camelia Peterson. She's the show's mom. Good morning, Camelia. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm pretty sure that I would definitively know if I had more children.
Good point. Yeah, good point, Camelia. Glad to have you here. Welcome to the show. Looking forward to it. It's our last interview before we go to Japan.
Oh. Sad.
So I will be looking forward to seeing what Justin does. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to set him up with the guest capability, so he'll be running the show solo. So you guys won't be able to have him on. It was just way too technically complicated to be able to do that. I just want to make it as easy as possible for him. So everything will work out just fine. Camelia, this was a great topic. So when I read this story yesterday, obviously I'm thinking to myself, well, we've got a lot of parents who watch and listen to the Wake Up America show. I'm not one of them. Yeah. So I was like, hey, this will be perfect for Camelia. The question of this one weird trick that is the key to good parenting. From this article at CNBC says this one thing that makes parents successful, say psychologists, you just need to be good enough at it. What is it?
You just need to be good enough at loving your kids and being a parent. And they go through, this list of different things in here. And I think that this comes from, you had Laura on a while back and she was talking about all these mommy groups, online and all of these things you're supposed to watch out with for your kids and your babies and what to give them and what not to give them and how you're going to ruin their lives if you do this, that, or the other.
Right.
And it is there's this hyper awareness of perfect parenting. And it's just, nobody's going to ever be a perfect parent. You just need to be good enough. You just need to have a relationship with your kids and be there, be present.
So when you say good enough, I mean, we're talking about like good enough for government work. I mean, what does it really mean to be good enough when when you're talking about a parent? I mean, I think most people think I want to be a great parent. I want to be a perfect parent. But I mean, good enough just means like, making sure that they don't die. I mean, what does that mean? That's kind of seems like a low standard.
Sure. Well, and I think that people think no parent, I don't, well, very few parents that I know feel like they are good enough per se. And a good enough parent is not just, meeting their physical needs, but it is giving your child the gift of a relationship that teaches them that you are learning right along with them, and that you don't have to be perfect to be a good parent. That is letting your kids see your imperfection. I think is so important in parenting. It's probably one of the best things that you can do for them. And it's not, parenting doesn't boil down to, all the things like, limiting your screen time, or, making sure they learn a second language, or having them in enough sports, or setting these, major goals for them. Those are all fine. Those are all good things, but everything needs balance. And there are 6 things that this article talked about that are kind of pillars on how you connect with your child, because that's the trick, is that you connect with your child. And the most important thing that you can do.
One of the things that Stephanie and I talk about with when we have kids is this question of how do you sort of ensure that your kids are gaining experiences with things without kind of forcing them to do things, right? Because in the United States, we have a very different culture of raising our kids. If you're in China, for example, or Japan, or some of these Asian countries, they're a tiger mom, and they don't care what their
Right.
kid thinks, right? They're going to force their child to learn how to play the violin and the piano and get straight A's and also be prepared. You're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, it's something like that. And it's kind of hard to argue with their success. I mean, it's not very libertarian, but I mean, you can say, I mean, worry about liberty once you're already an accomplished genius at 16 years old in that sense. So, I mean, you can kind of see, both approaches, but I imagine you probably would argue that that's a little bit too overbearing, wouldn't you? What would you say?
I would, you're right. I think that it's a matter of extremes, and we do have cultures where, they're very strict, and I think that's what is different about America too. We're always comparing, how our children are performing compared to Asian cultures, and they have a different approach. But you know what? Look where all of the innovation is coming from. I mean, when you talk about where people are innovating, it is where people are given the creative freedom to explore new ideas and new things, and where you learn how to learn. You're not just learning all of the information, you are learning to love learning and how to learn. And that's the most important thing that we can do. So I think parenting is really finding the balance in that. You do need to teach your kids, self-discipline and how to structure their lives to be successful. Those are all very important concepts, but you also need to, give them that freedom to explore as well, and recognizing that that's going to be different for every child. And
Yeah.
so there's no formula.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Peterson. It's nice to see some new followers over on Twitch, like our friend Todd in Minnesota. Alice McGee 44, glad to have you here. Pete Jones as well on Twitch. It's just the show is just growing like crazy, and we're glad to have you over here. I'm talking to my friend Camellia Peterson, who's our Tuesday and Thursday guest. She's a very rare camellia. And we're talking a little bit about parenting, do's and don'ts, one weird trick, if you will. Discipline. You brought up this topic of discipline. Now, there's another thing where Steffi and I are kind of like, at odds, right? Should you beat your kids? I guess is a good question to start with. Do you beat your
I don't.
kids? And how often? Or how often do you beat your kids? How often
The
should
answer
you
is
beat your kids?
the answer is no, and probably the answer is also never. I will say this is one of those things that is different for everybody. I always like to use the example because there are children respond to different things in terms of discipline, and this is part of knowing your child, which is part of why connecting with your child is so important. And parents know their children children best. So, with my older one, Anna Rosa, like the worst thing I could do for her, I think the thing that she probably cried about the most was I made her stand with her nose to the refrigerator one day when
Yes.
she was misbehaving. And it was like, you'd have thought I was killing her.
It was the worst. I mean, that would be kind of annoying, but I mean, but you didn't have any boys, and
No.
boys can be a little bit different. I mean, like there's an inherent violence
Yeah.
in the male that needs to be reined in. How do you civilize? And I mean, knowing that both of us are ignorant to this, how do you civilize a young boy who has an inherent violence in him? I mean, it's this, Jordan Peterson talked about what is it that makes a good man. And, sometimes I find myself like I feel compelled to violence, to utter savagery, like to commit heinous acts that would be sometimes I feel like I want to commit criminal acts. And it's weird because it's just like an impulse. And I'm like, oh, where did that come from? But then I think about Jordan Peterson, where he says that like a good man is not a weak man. He says a good man is a savage monster who keeps it under control. So how do you kind of instill that in a young man when he finds himself prone to fits of violence, and he's not got that self control yet? How do you rein that in?
So I think that, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is one of those biological differences between boys and girls that in today's science they try to deny, which is absolutely ridiculous and is a huge part of the problem these days. But boys I mean, males have this tendency. There's a lot more of that pent up energy, especially in boys. They need physical outlets for doing things. I did not have boys, but when I was tutoring classes in our homeschool communities, I started getting classes that were the majority boys. And I decided that this was someone's way of teaching me how to work with boys because, boys in a classroom setting, like having a boy sit still for even an hour at a time, like focus solely on something, that's hard for most boys to do that. And so they need, so it never bothered me, if they were fiddling with something or if they were writing something or they were playing with a little toy. And I did this in my online teaching too. They could be rolling all over the room or whatever, but that physical activity is so important for them. Their brain is still working. They're still receiving that information. And so that kind of stuff doesn't bother me as long as they're still learning because boys are very kinesthetic. And so I think that when it comes to, raising boys, this is just my perspective of someone who has not raised a boy. I think that it's really important to give them structure in ways that are physical, in teaching work and giving them physical outlets, not only for work, but for fun as well.
I get a lot
And
of
that's hard to do
yeah.
in a digital age.
We all get a lot of lectures in the liberty movement from the peaceful parenting movement, and they'll supply us with studies about like why you should never ever spank your child. You're going to turn them into a serial killer. Oh God! And I'm like, I don't have kids yet, but I can imagine a scenario where, you've got to spank your kid, right? If it's a young boy, right? Because he's using violence against other people. And one of the things that men need to understand is that if you do not control your violence, violence will be used against you, and it will be used. There's
Right.
always a bigger fish out there. And it's probably a good idea to get them into martial arts when they're young so they can get that kind of energy out. But I'm going to be honest, it wasn't just the spanking so much really that like learned me a lesson as a young lad, but some of my most important lessons were on the school ground, getting punched in the face by a bully. And oftentimes I probably spurred it on by my having shooting my mouth off. Women don't have to worry about the kind of violence that men do in a sense. Yes, women have to
Sure.
worry about violence. Yes, women have to worry about rape and sexual assault. I know the Hillary Clintonites out there are already like, women experience violence. Yes, I know domestic assault, ladies. But you don't necessarily have to worry about getting punched in the face if you spout off at a bar to somebody, right? You're probably going to get a
Right.
pass. So, I mean, in my mind, from an evolutionary psychology point of view, if you have a young boy who's committing acts of violence, then probably he needs to learn a lesson that there's always a bigger fish. And a spanking to me probably isn't the worst thing in the world for a boy. Agree or disagree?
Well, I agree, and I will say, I'm always conflicted about spanking, and I'm not going to say that I never spanked my daughters because I did. Very, very limited, and I think there are I think that you definitely have to be very careful. Anyway, but there are some children, I think maybe boys, even more than girls probably, that sometimes need that physical check to like stop their brain and say, pay attention. And we respond in a different way to physical pain. And so it's kind of like, if you have a small child who is, reaching for a hot stove, you're not going to like talk them into, not to, I mean, like, no, like, and even if you have to smack their hand before they get there, they need that association that's bad, that's harmful for them, that hurts them.
Right.
So there's some power in that physical association.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's an evolutionary basis to that, and parents who truly love their children know the difference between slapping the crap out of a child and turning them over your knee and giving them a couple of whops to get them to understand that what they are about to do, the consequences of the behavior that they are engaging in, it will be worse than the consequences that they'll have just from the behavior itself. So here's the thing. How do you raise a child to be respectful in a situation where, like, I remember at church, I don't think I ever got spanked outside of church, but boy, my dad threatened to take me outside if I was fidgeting or talking or being too loud during church or being disruptive or whatever it was. I mean, like, we have all of these disruptive hellions in our society who have no respect for decorum, decency. There's no elegance or sophistication in our young men anymore. And I wonder, how do you raise a young man to have that kind of level of sophistication, to be respectful towards adults and things like that? I can't help but wonder if this whole like peaceful parenting thing that we have nowadays, if every mother is just telling their son to go put their nose against a refrigerator, might be the reason why we have, these irrespectful, irreverent boys. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think when you talk about how behavior, socially acceptable public behavior, and so much of this is modeled. And I think we all know, parents who have not parented well and who have used spanking and physical punishment to an extreme. And it is more about an outlet for their anger, because for those of you who don't have kids yet, and people who do have kids, you'll understand this. Your kids could actually make you mad. So, the thing is like, it's where do you respond from? And there are parents who respond from a place of anger, and it's not about teaching their children. It's about an outlet for themselves in punishing. And when you talk about, so there's a modeling aspect to how you behave in public, but there's also, like you mentioned, there's setting very firm boundaries. And there are things, I grew up I didn't grow up. My girls grew up, for the most part, going to churches. So that's something you have to learn, is how do you sit in something for 2 and 3 hours at a time and be still and not run all over creation and make a lot of noise and everything. And there are always things that you can do to help with that. I mean, know your kid, know what they need to keep themselves occupied, set your expectations. And you know what, if they're being disruptive, I'm a big believer in this in like grocery stores or Walmart or whatever. If your kid's being a little hellion in the store, okay. But you know what? You don't need to subject everybody else to that. So I have done it before, and my girls really did this very, very, very rarely. We would leave the store. I mean, it just, there's no point in subjecting everybody else to that. And that was the boundary. You act this way in public, we leave, we stop, everything stops. We're doing nothing until, we can get this right and go back in and be decent people.
Watch out for Rare Candelia. She's Tiger Mom. Good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. I want to give a special shout out to all of our friends over on Twitch this morning. Usually we get like 1, maybe 2 viewers over there, but it looks like there's like 3 or 4 people over there, not just Todd in Minnesota, but I saw a couple of names flying by on the chat. It's nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you like the content that you're seeing, maybe it's your first time watching us, I'd love it if you wouldn't mind giving us your subscription. You get a free subscription through Amazon Prime. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the Stream Liberty channel over on Twitch, I'd be super grateful for that. You help support the show so we can help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. All right. Well, we spent almost all of our time talking about the discipline aspect of being a good parent. Obviously, that's the one that a lot of people get fired up, Camellia. But we are talking more generally about the topic of how to be a good parent. And one of the other items that are on this list is the question of health. Whenever I see an obese parent, the kids are always obese too. And so you have to sort of model healthy behaviors for your kids in regards to physical health as well as your diet, don't you, Rare?
Sure. I mean, and it's not just, and it's physical health, obviously, but it's not just physical health. It's your mental health too. And it's not just doing that so that you are modeling those behaviors for them. It's also doing that because if you do not tend to your own health, you will not be in a good position to be a good parent, first of all. And when we talk about people who do not parent well, and we all know that there are bad parents out there, one of the things that's super important to focus on is your being mindful of where you are in your personal growth. So important in being able to parent your children well, and not just in your physical health, but in your mental health, so that if you're not aware of your own responses to things and your own emotions, and questioning and examining your own perceptions and assumptions, and always doing that introspection, then you are going to have a much more difficult time connecting to your child, because we all kind of project our own views on other people, and we have our own expectations, and we do that with our kids probably more than anyone else. Because they're our kids. We have certain things that we want for them and that we expect of them. And sometimes we expect them to be just like us, and they're not us. They're individuals. So, we have to maintain that perspective for ourselves, because that makes us more effective teachers for them.
It makes really good sense there. That's Camellia Peterson. Camellia, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today for our very last segment before we say goodbye for a couple weeks?
Well, I will miss you guys while you're gone. I did want to say there was one other article when you sent me this that I had just shared a few days ago that this made me think of. And because one of the things it said, this is written by a lady who wrote a book called What Your Teen is Trying to Tell You. I think she's Irish. But one of the things she said is most parents are good enough. And good enough is good enough. I mean, especially when you get into having teenagers and all of a sudden you're not their everything. So, the thing is that you just have to keep connecting, keep being there, keep making those small gestures, of love and, attention, and being present with them, even when you're not. That's what I love about technology these days, is even when you can't be physically present, you can be present with them through technology as well. Physical presence is super important, but if you keep doing those things and being open with them in that, then they will feel loved, and they will get through all of the difficulties of being a teenager, and you will be good enough.
I like that. That's a really good point there. Camellia Peterson, editor of the libertarianrepublic.com, our good friend of the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will see you when I get back from the land of the rising sun, Camellia. Thank you very much for your
time
today.
Have a great time. Bye.
Yes, we will see you very soon. What do you think of Camellia Peterson? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. Are you going to miss seeing Camellia for her twice a week interviews on the show? I know. Don't cry. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. That's what my dad would say. How about that? That usually worked right there. It's great to see you all here today. The show is flying by, and after this show, then we've only got one more. But my brother, Justin Peterson, will be taking over while I'm gone. Yes, when I get back from the commercial break. Is it the Babylon Bee or is it not the Babylon Bee? Well, my Caucasian shirt is making waves again, with an article written yesterday by one of the most premier non-satire satire sites, notthebee.com. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. What do you think of Camellia Peterson? Isn't she great? I'm honestly going to miss CJ. It's going to be sad. Well, how sad can I be when I'm going to be in Tokyo? Oh, yeah. I'll be feeling magical. I'm super excited to go on vacation this weekend, but the good news is that the Wake Up America show will take a brief hiatus after my brother takes over. Justin Peterson will be joining us next week as my guest host. Hell yes. Glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. Nathan02297 is joining us today. Nice to see you. Said never joined this stream before, but she was very insightful. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Makes us feel good. Camellia Peterson joins us every Tuesday and Thursday on the show. We like to do a little bit of an elevated talk show. The Wake Up America show, it's not always big brain time here on the show, but it's, I guess you could say, fun, like tabloidish political news talk, gossip that sometimes delves into really, really deep philosophical topics. So that's kind of how I would describe the Wake Up America show in a very terrible way. It's nice to see you friends over joining us on Twitch as well. Todd in Minnesota over there as well. It's kind of one of my new best buddies. Like to see you all here today, Todd. Glad to have you as a new friend. Joni Rankin's here as well over on YouTube. And we got a bunch of people watching us over on Rumble. When you start counting up all the people who are watching us on the different platforms, we're definitely pushing up towards 100 people watching us live in the morning. And I know we've got even some people over on Twitter as well. I don't like to... Sometimes I look over on Twitter and it's like 0. Like, oh God. What are you going to do? You do the best you can and then you move on. Glad to have all of our friends of freedom here on any platforms. Yeah, 0 people on Twitter. You know what I do to fix that? I just retweet it. There we go. Now there's going to be some people watching us. Glad to have you here. All right, what am I looking at right now? I'm looking at my Twitter stream. Let's head over instead to notthebee.com. Now, many of you know the Babylon Bee is one of the most premier satire news sites in the world. Well, they have a sister site called Not the Bee, and their site, Not the Bee, basically tells stories about things that sound like they're satire, but they're actually not. Someone created a Caucasians team shirt to prove a point. I think it backfired. What do you mean, someone? Am I reduced to being someone? They probably thought that the headline would get a lot more attention if they said someone versus just Austin Peterson, because you know what, they'd probably be like, who's that? Well, he's the host of the Wake Up America show, duh. But it's a great article that you should read over at notthebee.com. I made this meme and a lot of people copied my design, but you know how you know it's the legit real Caucasians original jersey? See that little watermark up there in the top right-hand logo? Yeah, that's me, AP right there. So you know that I originated it. But it wasn't necessarily my original idea in the first place, because like 10 years ago, some sportscaster thought that he would be funny by creating a team called the Caucasians. And initially it was a way to be like, oh, white people are going to see what it means to have a team jersey named after your ethnicity. But white people loved it. And back in the day, it really became a huge deal. But yeah, everybody really loved the Caucasians jersey when I made it with the Chad logo and sort of recirculated the meme with my own shirt as well. But I've got my own sort of Washington Redskins style version of the shirt, 9mm SMG. He got one and he wrote a nice review of the product. He says, I finally have a nice shirt to wear for Easter dinner. LOL. Very funny. The reaction to the Caucasians tee has really got people cracking up and rolling in the aisles. The best part about this, though, is a lot of people are like, well, I like the Caucasians jersey, but have you got anything else? Well, if you go to apforlibertyshop.com, you can actually see in our apparel sections, we've got a whole lineup of great gear. Not only do we have the Caucasians, but the Indians are represented, Christians are represented. I did sell some of the Mexican Chad, the Ultimate Team tee, and apparently the Mexicans really love this tee. You can also get it as a basketball jersey. Team Reptilians as well are represented on the show. Ladies have a deep V-neck, because I know that Camellia and other ladies were like, we need some V-necks. And just for a little bit of fun and hilarity, of course, we've got the Jews and the Tribe. That's their minor league team. You can get it on frosted glasses for your favorite team. You can get them in sweatshirts. And this one, I think, was a little spicy, but it was a little bit overlooked. The Colonizers, as you can see, the Pilgrims there. And on the back of the Colonizers jersey is the logo. Do you like the models that I chose for this shirt? It says, we came, we saw, we gentrified. All right. I'm going to go get my buddy from literally the country of Georgia right now. It's like 6:30 p.m., so it's not morning over there. But the country of Georgia has an actual functioning libertarian party with people who are in parliament there. I'm going to go get my friend Herman Jabo, who's going to be joining us here in just a few minutes to talk about how he's bringing the fight for liberty internationally when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1. You can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2. Most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3. You're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell! This commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Good. Well, if you're enjoying this show, make sure that you click like, whether you're watching us on Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or any other platform. We'd be super grateful to help us spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. Some people are better at it than others, including my next guest, who's on the international scene making big waves for liberty in the country not the state, of Georgia, where it's not morning at all. It's actually late in the evening. Joining me now to talk about international liberty is our new friend, Herman Sabo, who's joining us on the program right now. Good morning, Herman. Thank you for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure for me to be your guest and to talk about the things which are important for freedom on the local level, and also to give example for our international community, for the people who think about freedom from all day long, every day.
For sure, Herman. So thank you very much for being with us today and for fighting for the same principles of economic freedom and personal liberty. Now, you are a member of a political party called Gurchi that actually holds 4 seats in the parliaments of Georgia. You're also a media manager. You're a cryptocurrency enthusiast. You're from the region of South Ossetia, which is currently under Russian military occupation, which we will probably discuss a little bit later in this segment. But would you mind telling us a little bit about this political party and some of the accomplishments that you've been able to make in your country?
We called our party Gürcü, which you could translate in English as a pine cone. Despite that, all the political parties in Georgia are called some big words like Georgia's freedom or Party for People or stuff like that. We just decided to call a simple name, which would be memorable. And after 7 years of our existence, it's a pleasure to see that our friends from international landscape started to notice us and to pay attention to the things we've done, and we've done some remarkable things. I'll talk upcoming about these ideas and things we've managed to achieve in country of Georgia. Georgia is a very conservative country, as you would imagine. It's a post-Soviet country where all the values were degraded by the Soviet Union, and the generation of our parents and grandparents really can't comprehend how things could operate and happen without government involvement. And it was really tough for us to spread the ideas of economical freedom, personal freedom, self-ownership, and stuff like that. So we try to not to only talk about this stuff, but also to act upon those ideas. And we are the party who managed to legalize the consumption of cannabis in Georgia in 2018, I think. Yes, nice. We actually, I should be in prison right now for 12 years because me with my party members, we violated the law we planted the cannabis in our party office on the New Year's Eve as a public disobedience. It was only 84 members of our party had the courage to do so, but it was big media coverage, and people would really understand that it was crazy to put people in jail for just planting a seed in the ground. So we managed to break the people's perception in that direction, and then we won the constitutional court in Georgia. And right now in Georgia, you can consume cannabis without any fines. And we are in Europe. We are the only. I think at that time we were the second country where the consumption was like totally legal. I mean, there are many countries in which it's de facto legal and police doesn't touch you or something like that. But to have it like even like legally free, it was the Georgian. I think what I don't remember the second country, but it was the second country in Europe. It was the one big deed what we managed to achieve without having any places in parliament. After that, we are also against the conscription mandatory army.
That one I'm really excited because let me set that up if you don't mind, Herman, because I think our listeners are really going to love this. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Herman Sabo. He is from a political party called the Gurchi party in he's from South Ossetia in the country of Georgia, and he's joining us now to talk a little bit about the success of his political party, which was founded in 2017, or excuse me, it was founded in 2015, and has now placed 4 members of their party in parliament, which is a very libertarian party there in Georgia. Now, one of the most interesting parts of this story, of this incredible story, is that in 2017, the Gurchi Party created what was called the Church of Biblical Freedom. Tell us a little bit about this church and what you all managed to accomplish with it.
It's a story I would tell my grandkids when I'll be really old. It's that kind of story, really. We've been covering many aspects of personal freedom when we were talking about how our society should be structured and stuff like that. And one of the main issues we had is that even right now have a mandatory military conscription where young people from 18 to 27 are obliged to go to so-called army, but in reality it's not the army. They're just standing as a free labor, as guards on different administrative buildings and prisons and stuff like that. So it's kind of legal slavery for 1 year, and we've been fighting to get rid of this system for several years with legislative proposals and some media coverage and stuff like that. But at one point we faced like brick wall that there was nothing else we could do about this. And when we were sitting in the office and discussing what we could do, we just took the law and started to reading about the conscription. And there was written that if you are a priest, you're excluded from military service. And then we had this crazy idea: why don't we establish our own religion? And we went to this public house, it's called, where you make all your papers with the government. And we started to establish the religion, and somehow after 3 attempts we managed it. And then we secretly baptized. It's not called baptized, sorry for my English. What's it called when you turn someone into a priest?
I think I know it's called like you get frock, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a religious person, so I've forgotten a lot of my
at least
terminology
you understand
there.
what I mean.
Yeah, but
So
I know that
we
you're
made
looking for.
one
Probably
of
our live stream listeners will be able to send it in to us, perhaps. But continue, please.
Okay. Yeah, so we made one of young men a priest. He was obliged to go to the mandatory army, and he went there with our certificate that he's a priest. And they were really confused, but they couldn't do anything. And after that, we had the avalanche of young people coming to our office and becoming priests. And right now, we issued about 50,000 certificates. And you have to imagine the scale of this. Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, is about 3.7 million population. And having 50,000 priests, it's like, for example, Georgia's main religion is Orthodox Church, Orthodox Christianity, and they have 4,000 priests. So we are like 12, 13 times bigger church in terms of priests than our country's main religion.
That is
Everybody
quite
was
funny.
pissed.
That is quite funny.
Everybody was pissed.
Herman, congratulations to you for that. The word that we were looking for, thanks to all of our friends over in the live stream, is ordained. You become ordained as a priest. That is the word.
Yes.
I didn't know it either, and English is my first language.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm having a fascinating conversation with our friend from Georgia, the country, not the state of Georgia, and his name is Herman Sabo. He's talking to us now as a member of the political parliament, one of 4 members of his political party that are in parliament in the state of Georgia, which is called the Gurchi Party, a very libertarian party that has been able to rack up some incredible accomplishments and major wins for liberty, which is absolutely fascinating. We're learning so much today from Herman. Hopefully the libertarians in the United States could take a page out of his playbook. certainly our Libertarian Party here in the United States, Herman, has not been as successful as yours. So we definitely give you a congratulations to you on that one. I'd like to move the subject on a little bit here, Herman, and ask you if you're comfortable with talking about the topic that I breached a little bit earlier, the fact that you're under Russian military occupation. So I assume that if you're conscripted there in Georgia, then you're required to join the Russian military. Is that correct?
Oh no, it's a little bit misunderstanding of the situation. A part of two regions of Georgia is occupied by Russia. Um, there was a war between Georgia and Russia in 2008. It was a similar scenario what is happening in Ukraine, what happened in Ukraine in 2014. And right now, these two regions are occupied by Russia, but the rest of the 80% of Georgia is still under the Georgian government. So when you're drafted, you will serve in Georgia's military, not Russia's military. Thanks God.
Yes, I imagine so. I mean, do you have an opinion on the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia?
Russia was heading toward this scenario for decades. The structure of ruling, which was in Soviet time when everybody was under one man and whoever was on top, he was like a tsar. It was different names, but still it was like a tsar. It was like a single ruler for the whole country. And after a breakup of the Soviet Union, Russia didn't reorganize their institutions, their way of the way the government is structured. And right now, when even if very good person would appear on the top of that pyramid, that kind of power will corrupt everybody. And can you imagine that when Putin became, and he's a former KGB spy, when he became a ruler of such a huge country and corruption was high, everything was leading to the scenarios where to have the power in his hands, he needs some enemy outside of the state, and that kind of enemy right now is West for Russian propaganda. And to fight that enemy, you need small wars. And one of there was like 3 wars with Georgia with the same scenario, and the next step was Ukraine. And if the international community will let this slide to Putin's hands, it will just go on, and at some point the front line will be way deeper in the middle of the Europe, or maybe closer to US, or it will be just unpredictable. So taming the current situation, I understand that from the libertarian point of view, spending your taxpayers' money on some country far away from you, it's like not a good thing. But to understand the perspective that it's money spent on prevention of the future crazy scenarios, which would be way more closer to even US or some other countries which are involved in this conflict in different ways. I think the only way out the free world can let this war end is somehow taming the Putin's will to establish the areas of his influence. Otherwise, it will be just unpredictable scenario for the future for us, because we are close neighbors, and for you also.
Yeah, certainly it makes a lot of sense. We're speaking to Herman Sabo, who is joining us now live from the state of Georgia. Herman, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners here on the Wake Up America show before we let you go today, sir?
I'll just say that freedom is not a state. Freedom is a direction, and also freedom is not granted. Freedom is to fight every day, all day, every day. And maybe we will not find the perfect solutions for the problems we are facing today, but at least we know that we have a morally structured position on almost every aspect of our life, and we when we have this morality with us, we know that we are right in those situations, and we managed to win the small wars here in Georgia with the understanding that the idea is the most important part of our war, and you can't really win against good logical and moral ideas. So we made our small victories here, and we want to share these victories with you. And thank you for this opportunity. And maybe some little less successful countries who don't have such a good representatives in the as a representative of the fighters of the freedom. Maybe they will have an example from us, and if there will be any, if there will be people or organization who will be willing to get more information from us, how we managed to win our small wars here, we'll be very glad to share all the information. Thank you again for your time, and I wish you and your listeners freedom.
Absolutely amazing. Herman Sabo from the country of Georgia. You are an inspiration, sir. We need to package up whatever it is that you have and bring it here to the United States. Maybe we need to get you here for a conference to come and speak here at a libertarian conference. Herman, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for defending liberty, sir. We appreciate you very much. Keep up the good fight, sir. We hope to hear from you again very soon.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's Herman Sabo from the country of Georgia. What did you think of Herman? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Let me ask you something. Do you get interviews like those anywhere else in the country? Let me ask you, do you like the Wake Up America show? I just, again, not to pat myself on the back or anything like that, but like I'm just very proud of the work that we do on this program because, the community that has allowed us to be able to do this. I mean, without you guys, obviously, we would not be able to do it. Yeah, obviously, I'm saying I'm patting myself on the back, but you guys deserve a pat on the back too, to be honest. People like Elizabeth Press and Camelia Peterson and John Combas and John Rail and Quest Fanning and Sarah Palacios and Tolly Owens and, Chris Morrill, Doug H. When you're making purchases at apforlibertyshop.com, not only are you getting great merch, but you're supporting my ability to be able to introduce you to people like Herman Sabo. Think about it. That's how I would kind of think about it is, you make monthly support donations to the program, right? And you could see your money's not going to waste, right? So I hope that you think of like the donations that you're making to the program, like as a monthly supporter, like a Freedom Ninja or Cantina crew member, or, just being a subscriber to the show or just even watching the show, right? Think of yourself as helping to support the cause, because how else would we have learned who this gentleman is and the incredible victories that he had in fighting conscription by creating a church, legalizing marijuana by planting it in their party headquarters? I mean, this is the kind of content that you just absolutely are not going to find anywhere else on any other kind of show. If you're watching us on Rumble this morning or on Twitch or on Facebook or on YouTube or Twitter, pat yourselves on the back. Give yourself a round of applause, because all of the community support for this show has allowed me to be able to bring incredible people to you and incredible ideas. And I hope that you've been enjoying it as well. So I just want to say thank you very much for being a part of this community, because, I'm starting to feel a little bit melancholy about the fact that I'm leaving you guys. And I think that what we're doing here is absolutely very special and very unique. Looks like we're running out of time here today, unfortunately. Yeah, it is that time. Sad. One more show to go. It'll be Family Friday tomorrow. My lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, will be joining us. We're very excited to say goodbye before we go to Japan one more time. One more show before we leave. I'm grateful to the audience out there for being big supporters. I'm grateful to the Cantina crew, A.L. Wild, Elizabeth Press, Chris Morrill, Doug H., Sam, the Quantum Revival, who I've been seeing over on Twitter a lot more lately. Sam, you're pretty awesome. Doug H, Tolly Owens, Elizabeth Press, Barney Styles. Hey Barney, by the way, if you did want that merch item, just again send me that Twitter DM or contact me some other way so that I can know exactly what it is you're looking for, because I've already forgot whatever the item was that you wanted me to make. But I can make it as soon as I get home for you and send it to you as a direct message. If you haven't checked the AP for Liberty shop, now's your chance to do it. Here's the deal. Some of the items that we ship out, I've got 2 killdozers that have to last through the next 2 weeks if anybody buys them. But if you want one, you better get it now, because I'm not going to be able to make any more until until I get back. And even then, it still takes me a couple days to make those things. That's why they're a little bit pricier, just because they take a lot of material and time and energy. So I have to make it. Steffi tweaks them and then sends them out. So here's the deal. Go to apforlibertyshop.com. The shop will still be running while I'm gone. Things like t-shirts and other merchandise will go out without any problem. Things like Buddhas and things like any 3D printed items. If you don't order it by tomorrow, then it's probably not going to happen until I get back. Okay, so I will put a notice on the website to let people know that there might be some delay in shipping some things. But if you buy t-shirts or any of the other kind of stuff that's like apparel related, no problem. That kind of stuff can go out while we're in Japan. I do have Nathan, my staffer, who's also going to be handling inquiries and things like that while we're away. My brother Justin Peterson will be taking over the show for a week while I'm gone for a 1-hour show, so an abbreviated show. So just want to say thank you very much to all of you. We appreciate you all at AL Wild. Nice to see you all here today. So check out apforlibertyshop.com. Get this look over here. This Caucasian shirt is... Imagine if the stir it's causing online, if it's even half as big in real life. I mean, you're going to have a good time. Get yourself a Caucasian shirt. We'll get that mailed out to you as soon as possible. You'll get it in less than a week. Our print on demand is really picking up fast. All right, one more show to go before Japan. I am sad to leave you guys. Sometimes I really don't want to end the show. Like right now, I'd love to just stick around and hang out and talk with you guys, but unfortunately, I do got to go. And by go, I mean I gotta go. We'll see you tomorrow for one more big run before the end. Well, not the end. We must call it the end. I'll see you tomorrow for Freedom Friday with Stephanie on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.